this is Ashim Dara. I work in the Department of Biological and Environmental Engineering at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York. Some years ago, we put together a project that has to do with simulation-based enhancement of food safety education. I am about to tell you about some resources that you can use to enhance your existing courses in a very active learning manner. So this project is about simulation-based enhancement of food safety education, and we want to reach the broadest number of people, and so that's how we have designed these modules to be used in very large number of courses. So it was developed in a multi-university project involving several co-project directors and collaborators and other volunteer collaborators. I am not naming them. You can see there's a long list, and there are others even outside. Altogether, the modules have been assessed in 17 courses in 14 universities and over a 5-year period. So what are the objectives of this study? So what we want to build are these self-guided learning modules to bring the learning of food safety as an interdisciplinary subject matter to the largest audience in ways that are less time and resource intensive for the student and the instructor. Modules incorporate simulation as an active learning tool. So these modules are meant to supplement an existing lecture. So it can complement lectures by bringing in active learning, engaging the students more, allowing more realistic problem solving and what if scenarios. In a lab, it can extend more possibilities. Okay? So altogether, it's hoped that these modules will allow things to be more interdisciplinary, reach a larger audience, and do so while being less resource intensive. Plus, these are complete modules, they're not just simulation. So the grading, for example, is part of the module, it's fully automated, and the platform where the modules are implemented is FERPA protected, that is, the identity of the student is only available to the instructor. So here are the things I'm going to talk about. Food safety education, I just want to introduce that, and how simulation can help education, then how these resources were built, what does it contain, and how it can enhance curriculum, and some aspects of the assessment of the courses, and some follow-up material. So for food safety education, for this purpose, we can think of food safety at different scales, starting from how a bacteria attaches and internalizes. Then there is growth and inactivation, and then there is the integrated process and microbiology. So in other words, the process could have changing temperature, changing moisture, and at each stage of those temperature and moisture, the microbiological growth or inactivation are going to be different. So we have to combine these two. And then finally, risk assessment that is at the largest scale. So we are going to focus on these three, and we are also going to focus on these three for one set of courses that are for food science or related science courses, and another set of modules that are related to engineering courses. Why are we even talking about simulation? How can it help education? So simulation actually is part of active learning, and this is a well-known chart that you may have seen. So it says if we just read, we tend to remember about 10%. If we hear, we tend to remember about 20%. But if we do simulation in an active fashion, we can remember a much larger fraction, which is 90%. And this is the main idea behind bringing in simulation as an active learning tool. So one of the major advantages of simulation is to make interdisciplinary subject matter possible. So I elaborate that with the most common everyday example of food safety in canning as an interdisciplinary process that involves microbiology and heat transfer. Food scientists have background in the biology and the conceptual aspects of heat transfer, of course, but not as much in the quantitative heat transfer aspect. So if we simulate heat transfer and the food science student has control for this simulation, he or she can do the entire canning process in a more realistic manner. Likewise, for engineering students, they may be having quite a bit of knowledge, quantitative knowledge about heat transfer. They can simulate heat transfer, but canning is more than heat transfer. It also has to include microbiological growth and inactivation. So this microbiological growth and inactivation can be included through simulation, making the whole process more realistic. And so it can fit in an engineering curriculum. So there are several advantages of this, and instead of you hearing from me, here we put in feedback from the instructors who use the modules. As I said, a number of instructors have used. So if we ask them why did they chose the module for the two groups, science and engineering, you can see a number of them chose because it enhanced learning of difficult concepts. The difficult concepts are often the interdisciplinary one. Also, when we ask them, did it help? How did it help in the courses? Then a large number of them says it reinforced the course learning outcomes, and also it enhanced learning of difficult concepts. So these are the reasons for incorporating these simulation module. So how did we build these resources? So I want you to see what we are going to talk about is more than just a simulation module, more than just computation. So of course there is the simulation activity, the actual computation. With that, there are many other aspects that are built in. One is, of course, you can ask the student to generate report. We need to provide the background because these are built for a very large number of course possibilities. These are not tied to any one course at one university. So we have the necessary background. So if we think of all of these as the user activity, then there is also the summary that we built, and then there is the pre and post assessment to see how much learning is going on, and we had to develop learning outcomes of these modules that are tied to the typical course learning outcomes where these modules can be used. And finally, we also have introductory material for the module and a follow-up. So it's self-contained, it's complete in itself, and also it is put in a learning management software for scalable and individualized delivery. So it's complete. Here are the screenshots from the learning management software where it can be used from anywhere basically and anytime that the students like. And the learning management software, the platform also enforces this structure, and it also does the automated grading. So with all this, we feel that the instructor simply needs to assign, and the things are fairly automated. For example, there's grading of the quizzes, that there should be minimal help needed at any level by the instructor or the students. An example of how the interface looks like. So this is the microbiology module that is using Excel. Then student will have places to input numbers and then get final results that look like this. And here is one for the microbial inactivation for a particular microbe, and we can choose different kinetics and so on. Then there are also ways to change the water activity. So this is all microbiology, and then there is the process where we simulate the heat transfer, so you can see visually the student can have a good idea of the heat transfer, and the student would generate plots like this. Then there is the risk assessment part, which is R based. By the way, the previous one, the process plus microbiology, the heat transfer one, was COMSOL based, but it does not need the software. We have built it in a way that it's standalone. It does not now need any software. Likewise, this risk assessment is also built using the software R, that is a public domain software, and it does not need any other resources, and these modules can be downloaded and used, and these are typical screen shots from the software. It can do the exposure assessment and dose response and so on, and this is the final histogram showing the risk. So how does it enhance, how do these modules enhance curriculum? So I'm going to show you these for two separate curriculum, food science curriculum and then the engineering curriculum. So first, for food science curriculum, the microbiological growth and inactivation one that is based on Excel can enhance a microbiology course in such a curriculum. Then the integrated process and microbiology that had heat transfer and for example, which are COMSOL based, can be implemented together with a course on food processing or food engineering that are part of such curriculum. Likewise, the risk module can be implemented in a sanitation course or a risk analysis course. And likewise, for engineering, the microbiological growth and inactivation module that was created for engineers, not the same one as for the food scientists, this is a different one, and that can nicely complement a course where kinetics is taught. Likewise, the integrated process and microbiology part can complement a heat and mass transfer course or a food engineering course. And finally, the risk module is built for the engineers, and it can complement a course on probability and statistics or a risk analysis course. Finally, we come to the assessment part of it, and the assessment was done in all the implementation of these modules in both food science and engineering. So here you can see the pre-assessment in blue and the post-assessment in orange, and in all cases, so these first three are the modules for the science courses, first one being microbiology, the second one being the process plus microbiology, and third one is risk in a food science curriculum. And you can see in all cases the learning was enhanced, and likewise it was for the engineering curriculum. So we have microbiological modules, process and risk modules. What did the student like? I think we all want the student to be engaged, and here is a student comment saying it is very engaging. It was useful to have a model to see side by side with the lecture, so it complements the lecture, and the modules are built in a nice and coherent way. The models were real and interactive. Graphs are useful for more tactile and interactive learners. Yes, the students also wanted some things improved, speeding up the simulation process, and some questions not clear. These of course are being worked on all the time and improved. And some design aspects were not settled in the past, but they are now settled. Finally, in terms of follow-up, so here is the website where we have all the materials. You can use the 6 modules right away. We can develop more modules together, and the website has all information on the developed modules. Thank you.